What is up, everybody, and welcome to the All-NBA show powered by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get started with 150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com/All-NBA. I'm your host, Adam Mares. I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, the host over at The Volume Hoops Tonight. It's Jason Timpf. JT, had some really good games last night. We even had high-profile games that weren't good, but I'm excited to talk about.
Yeah, you know, I've been dying for the NBA slate to heat up a little bit. That you could just tell that the league just loads up the schedule this time of year with a bunch of mediocre games because they don't want to try to compete with the NFL during this December, January. But you could just kind of sense it. You can sense the shift. They're starting to load it up. We finally got a couple of really good games last night. And I you know, anytime I see these teams that we perceive as top tier contenders match up in the regular season, I always like super zero in and like hyper focus on the film because you just know we're going to end up seeing these two teams potentially play in a 2-week setting coming up in April. And last night, a little discouraging for Rockets fans, I'd say.
I would say very discouraging. I might be a little harsh on Rockets today because it's just how I feel about them. I mean, we're going to talk, you know, what we think about the state of the Houston Rockets as well as that game. So we'll get to it. There's a bunch of games, so we're going to try to hit on a bunch of games. And then later in the show, it is Friday. We want to have a little bit of fun. We've actually been kicking around this topic for a couple weeks, and I'm glad we're finally getting to it. We're going to snake draft the best draft classes of the last 25 years, since the year 2000, basically, snake drafting. This was a lot of fun to research. I love a topic when I go to do like all of the legwork on it, and it's just like a blast. I didn't want to quit. That's how I felt doing this, like researching all the drafts and trying to figure out which ones were best.
Yeah, because you're like, oh, yeah, this guy was in this draft. You're like, oh, man, this draft was ridiculous. Yeah, you start to dig through it. And the other one, too, is like there's some drafts, too, that are super deep with just really good players. Not necessarily stars, but you're like, there's like 15 like really good high-level rotation players in this draft. Like, how rare do you see something like that? It was fun. I enjoyed digging into it, too.
Yeah, so we'll do that in the back half of the show. But we're going to start by breaking down the slate from last night, and we're going to start with the big one, the Thunder beating the Rockets, and beating them fairly easily thanks to a 34-16 fourth quarter. This was a bit of a back-and-forth game. I thought the Thunder had control of the game, meaning they were up by like 4 points for almost all this game. They'd stretch it to 9, it'd go back to 4, but they were always ahead until the fourth quarter when they just blew the doors off of the Houston Rockets. And it felt to me, just as we think about the flow of this game, not necessarily even what happened, although we'll get into that, the flow of this game to me felt like the Rockets were always teetering on the edge. Like everything they did was so tough, and you felt like one little trip up, it was going to fall apart. And that trip up came in the fourth quarter. You know, I thought the Thunder started making shots. That was part of it. Their role players started hitting threes. But the other part of it was that Houston tightened up. I thought their offense was disgusting, and you didn't get the sense that they were like having a process that was going to allow them back into this game. You felt like they would have had to shoot the craziest run of tough shots just to stay involved. Obviously that didn't happen, and they end up blown out.
Yeah, you know, I think the most discouraging thing for the Rockets is that your biggest advantage bared out in a big way, which is your offensive rebounding.
Yeah.
So they had a 25-10 second chance points advantage in this game. So you absolutely dominate in what is your key margin. And they controlled Oklahoma City's biggest margin. They turned the ball over, and Oklahoma City did score off of turnovers, but pretty far below their season average. Like Houston did not lose this game turning the ball over at half court and leading to runouts the way that we're kind of used to seeing with OKC. So like you control your biggest margin and you mitigate their biggest margin. And it seemed like you never had control in the game. Like even when all that stuff was going your way through the first 3 quarters, as you mentioned, it always felt like Houston would claw back to get to within one possession and then immediately lose control. And honestly, what did them in that fourth quarter, again, the drives from Oklahoma City and then paying it off with those catch and shoot threes. And you start, Reed Shepherd obviously has shown a lot offensively for this group this season, but he continues. It's been especially bad in this matchup in the 2 games, but this has been an issue throughout the season. He's this bad combination of small, skinny, not overly fast, and he's a pretty poorly disciplined defender in terms of his fundamentals. Like, there's just a lot of like clear straight line drives where he's applying like almost no resistance at the point of attack, which is leading to these clean kickouts. And there was even this really bad ball screen rep against AJ Mitchell where he just died on a screen and let AJ settle into a pull-up 3 that was a big shot in that fourth quarter run. And then we got to credit the Thunder here. Like, they had gone through a little bit of a stretch of the yips on with their jump shooting. They shot really poorly in 2 of the Spurs games. They shot really poorly in the Minnesota loss. There was a stretch where they lost to Charlotte, beat the Jazz barely, and beat the Grizzlies barely. And in that stretch, they literally took 63 unguarded catch and shoot jump shots and made 13 of them. They were in like the upside down as a shooting team. And they blew out of that in a big way last night. Like, a lot of these like pretty semi-contested types of catch and shoot shots that they were hitting. And this is a team that for the most part this season has shot the ball really well. And it was inevitable that they would burst out of that eventually. And they did last night.
And primarily in the fourth quarter. I'm trying to look it up right now to see how many of the threes came in the fourth, because I did
5 for 9 on catch and shoots in the fourth quarter.
Just catch and shoots, or is that all threes?
Just catch and shoots.
Okay, and they had 6 threes, so 6 of their 16, which is, obviously a little bit ahead of pace for the rest of the game. Because to me, I wasn't thinking that most of the game as I was watching it, that they had broken out of, they were having a nice shooting run. But in the fourth quarter, it absolutely was. And it was guys that matter, because it's AJ Mitchell going 2 of 3, Cason Wallace going 2 of 2. Those are the guys because they're kickouts. Kenrich Williams, I think, had one that kind of was like the nail in the coffin, although they were up like 18 at the time. Yeah. But it was kind of ended the game, where it was just like, dribble penetration, get into the paint, kick out, and a guy, if he makes it, it's a killer. And they just made so many of them. And it made me think this. There's 2 things, because I actually want to start by talking about the Thunder. They're a hard team to talk about, because they're so good, they're so dominant that you almost only talk about them when they lose, and then you kind of like, what's happening here? But here's something that stood out to me about last night. 2 things. One, I think AJ Mitchell, it's underrated that he missed 2 of the Spurs losses, in part because they use him as kind of a closer, and I don't know if he's going to be a closer. Last year, they had some flexibility in their closing lineup, but there were guys that you kind of just penciled in. AJ Mitchell right now might be, the way he's playing this year and the way they play, he might be the best option for them in the clutch, because he can guard, he can handle the ball, and he can knock down the open shots. And so that's one of the questions I have, is for a team that has won as much as they have, coming off a championship and is dominating the regular season so far, I still wonder if they know what their closing lineup is. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I almost mean that in a discovery way. Like, they still can discover who they are in the clutch. And I think it makes a meaningful difference.
Yeah, the thing that AJ Mitchell brings is like first step quickness for dribble drives. Like, JDub is very much a power driver. Like, if you give him an angle, he's a tank and he's very difficult to regain control of. And so he can be very gifted in transition and in semi-transition, or if Reed Shepherd throws that god-awful closeout that he threw at him on the right wing where he just kind of gave him the lane. There's a certain amount of like JDub relies on power and then counter moves, like that big windmill gather he used for that first Cason Wallace 3, or he'll bump into you and then make a behind the back dribble to go at you the other direction. What AJ Mitchell brings is like, he can stare straight up in a half court set with a set defender and just go to his rip through move, and he can get by that guy a lot. He brings like a real slashing element. I mean, that's honestly like, if you ask for like what the identity of this Thunder team is beyond their defense, they attack all the time. Like, even Chet's constantly looking to drive. He had a big driving dunk in that early fourth quarter. His post-ups and ISOs typically end in drives. Shai's constantly looking to drive. JDub's constantly looking to drive. AJ Mitchell's constantly looking to drive. Cason Wallace is gashing the defense off of closeouts. Like, they drive. And so they might oscillate in terms of like how well they make decisions at the rim. Like, during that stretch in late December, early January, they had some games where they were forcing stupid shots and not moving the ball through the defense. And they certainly can go cold from the perimeter, but the drives never stop. And that's like the one thing that is consistent for them. And I think AJ Mitchell is just like kind of a force multiplier for them in that sense. And the other guy I think we have to shout out because he's a huge problem for Houston in this matchup specifically is Chet. He's been unbelievable in both of these Rockets games, and he just helps them in a bunch of key areas. Like, even though Houston got a ton of offensive rebounds in this game, there were a lot of those battles that Chet did win, where he did come away with the ball, a big tap out, a big grab in traffic. He's a brilliant vertical spacer in this matchup because on all these drives, what happens? The big step up. When the big step up, there's an opportunity for Chet to step in and get a putback or to get a drop off. He had 3 dunks in this game off of easy drop offs and offensive rebound putbacks. And then lastly, his ability to switch onto Kevin Durant and pick and roll is so important for them guarding that 2-man game because he gets such good contests on those KD pull-ups, and he actually forced him into a lot of misses last night.
He was dominant. In the first half, he was scoring a bunch. I think he had 16 in the first half, and only that dunk you're talking about in the fourth, I think, was his only bucket. Might have been his only shot attempt, actually. I don't even remember him taking a shot. But the length for him does matter, especially against Şengün. And it is one of the differences between Jokic and Şengün is that Jokic is just so big. He's like meaningfully bigger that Chet's length doesn't quite, it still bothers Jokic to some degree, but not quite as much. With Şengün, you could see that it bothered him. And then on the other end as well, to your point, just the ability to attack, get downhill, it makes a difference for him. So 100% he stood out in a major way. I want to go back to the Thunder, though, and just trying to figure out like their identity and maybe if there is one problem. One thing is Jalen Williams is starting to get his groove back, although 6 points, 2 of 11 shooting wasn't exactly his night as a scorer. He's not taking threes this year. Have you noticed this? He's taking half as many threes as he was last year, and he's coming back from this wrist injury, this hand wrist injury. That's you can tell he's not fully comfortable. He had a weird pass in this game early on where he catches it on the wing and has to swing to his right, and he swung it with his left hand. And I was just sitting here thinking about what an unnatural movement that is. It's natural just to kind of pass the ball off to your right hand and swing it, and he passed it across his body with his left. And it made me think like, okay, there's probably still a little weirdness to how everything feels. But it manifests itself most when he doesn't shoot the three. And with Cason Wallace, Caruso, those guys are hitting threes, it doesn't matter. But when they're not, I wonder if he's going to be on the floor. And if he's not comfortable taking threes, the three-point shooting really does become a question for this team. So that's one major thing I'm monitoring with them is, does he ramp up his three-point shot attempts as the year goes on and his wrist gets a little more comfortable?
Yeah, they're going to need to, because like what inevitably is going to end up happening is you're going to see him on the opposite wing on Shai drives in the postseason, where they're just going to dig way down to the nail and essentially just dare him to shoot. And so like I think that there's two things are true. One, the Thunder are a good jump shooting team in the aggregate. The numbers prove that. I think Rockets fans, like if you're under the impression that you're going to flip that dynamic, like I think OKC's pure jump shooting talent is better than Houston's, for example. But like, no matter what happens the rest of the season, even if they shoot 42% on catch and shoot threes the rest of the year, and JDub shoots well, and all these different things go their way, I think because of what happened in December and January, and because of what happened in the postseason last year, and because of what happened in the postseason against Dallas, there's always going to be that kind of thing in the back of their minds and everyone else's minds, which is like, what if they just go cold?
Right.
What if they just go cold and they can't make jump shots for a week? It's at least a vulnerability that we have.
And to your point, it just happened last week or a week before that. So like if these things do happen where you fall out of rhythm for whatever reason with your shot collectively.
Yeah, I do think collectively they're a little streaky. Like Lou Dort was hitting last night. He's struggled for most of the season, right? Like I've seen Cason Wallace and Alex Caruso go games at a time where they can't hit a shot. So like, I think it's at least worth mentioning that that's in their head. But the JDub piece is the most important part of it, to your point, because like he's inevitably going to be on the floor for all these big moments. And he's typically situated on the opposite wing when Shai is driving, which is like where that like kind of nail help gapping thing is going to happen. And we didn't even get to this, but one of the interesting kind of game plan pieces in this game was the Rockets just straight up blitzing Shai on every single ball screen. They basically were like, if you want to go one-on-one against Amen Thompson or Josh Okogie, go ahead, we'll let you. But if you use any sort of ball screen, we're just blitzing the ball out of your hands. And as you know, Houston struggled offensively throughout the game, which is why Oklahoma City maintained the lead. But Oklahoma City's offense didn't really break out to that fourth quarter. So I do think that we will see teams, whether it's a Denver, whether it's a Houston, whether it's a San Antonio. I do think we're going to see a lot of double teaming of Shai when we get to the postseason. And a big part of that is going to be the 3-point shooting off the ball, especially from guys like JDub.
Some of it might even dictate the rotations and stuff of Oklahoma City, which is what you're hoping for. If you do get a cold streak from some of your guys, you filter in different ones to say, okay, well, maybe Isaiah Joe gets it going or what have you. So I think that's one reason that you would take that gamble, even though it does feel like 6 1/2 dozen the other, double teaming versus trying to guard him straight up. The last thing I have for Oklahoma City, though, two guys that I think make an underrated impact for them. Kenrich Williams, who I love. I've always loved Kenrich Williams' game as this like bit role player leader. And Jay Will, the other Jalen Williams. Both of those guys just like they played a ton of guys. They always do this where they just play a big rotation. They were able to play a lot of guys, and I feel like the addition of those guys gives them that flexibility to play these like all these different combinations and not give up size. Kenrich Williams somehow, he's like 6'6", plays like he's 6'10". So it gives him the ability to kind of play big with these different combos. I just think they're underrated what they contribute to the Thunder.
Yeah, Jay Will was awesome in the Spurs win the other night too. He just brings he's like a very good positional defender. He's just always in the right spot. Like he's not like this vertical rim protector in the traditional sense, but he's a big body and he's always in the right spot. He stonewalled a few big Steph Castle drives at the end of the Spurs game. Like he had a play where he beat Wemby to a spot and bumped him and damn near knocked him over when he tried to go to a spin move. Like JDub is just. It's funny, too, because him and Kenrich Williams are both just kind of awkward bodies at the NBA level. Like, they're both just kind of big, kind of, like, bulky type of dudes. But they bring a physicality element that I think is super valuable to this team. And one of the things with Kenrich, too, is because he actually missed a few shots in the fourth quarter run, but Kenrich does not lose his confidence. Like, that dude fires away. Like, that dude will take every look that he gets a decent attempt at. And I think you need that sort of thing, especially when you're slumping. You need some guys that just kind of have that irrational confidence in those positions.
He took a 10-foot baseline jumper in the fourth quarter and did the MJ shrug. And
I was like, come on.
Come on. It was, but I was like, that's a 10-foot jumper, man. You don't MJ shrug after one 10-foot jumper. But I actually loved it. I was like, you know what, whatever. Let's go to the Rockets here, and let me just give the take. I always say I judge teams. When I'm talking about playoffs and how good are you in the playoffs, I break it into 3 categories. Your overall talent, your collection of talent, you have a lot of it. They check that box. They have an enormous amount of talent. That one is fully checked just like every other, like all the other top contending teams. How connected are you? They are falling the opposite direction, in my opinion, on this one. Their chemistry, connection, do all of the pieces kind of maximize each other? I would say absolutely not at the moment. They play clunky, and it's going the other direction. It's not where it's like, okay, they're figuring things out around the edges. To me, it feels the opposite. And a lot of this has to do with Fred VanVleet. I mean, Rockets fans are going to be like, yeah, well, we're supposed to have a point guard. I get it, but he's not there. So I'm judging the team that is going to be available this year, and they just have less connection as it goes by. And then the last one is toughness. And I never thought they would be super connected. Your thought was, okay, maybe they will become pretty connected over the course, but they have ISO players, so it doesn't matter. But they're going to be the toughest team, and they're going to have a ton of talent. I'm not even sure they're as tough. Like, for some reason, they don't even play as tough as they were playing in previous iterations of this group, even earlier in the season. And that's the part that concerns me. The connection looks horrible, and it might be affecting their overall resolve as a team, because last night the wheels came off, and it just got uglier as the game went.
Yeah, I'm seeing what you're seeing too, with the kind of like letting go of the rope discouragement that kind of permeates through the roster.
Yes.
I think part of that has been they've spiraled as a jump shooting team as of late. And some of this is like, yeah, you're just in a slump, and slumps can happen in the regular season. But a lot of this is like a lot of guys were shooting above their pay grade to start the season. Like a lot of Rockets players were hitting a lot of threes that you wouldn't think would be hitting a lot of threes to start the season. And they've actually had 7, this is a crazy stat, Adam. They've had 7 consecutive games where they've gotten less than 0.85 points per jump shot, which is an incredibly putrid shooting stat.
Yeah.
For the total of the 7 games, they're getting 0.79 points per jump shot. So that's brutal. They're 2-5 in those 7 games. And what ends up happening, I tend to think these things are connected. Like when you start to have these sequences that don't get paid off with makes.
Yeah.
So like if KD draws 2 to the ball and he drops it to Adams and Adams pitches it to the corner to Jabari Smith and he hits the side of the backboard on a 3 like he did in the game last week, or, Şengün's drawing a double team in the post and kicking it out and, Aaron Holiday misses a 3. Like those things can feel like a shotgun blast to the chest, especially when the team runs out and scores on you on the other end. And I think as a team, they're just a little discouraged right now by how poor they're shooting. And I think it's really starting to permeate through the rest of their games. But I think if I was trying to be optimistic, what I would say is some of these guys are going to shoot better. Jabari's going to shoot much better. Jabari's been just absolutely the upside down. He's not that bad. Like last I checked, he was like 18% on 7 attempts per game over like a multi-week span. Like that's brutal, right?
Rough out there.
He's going to come up a little bit from there. Some of these guys are going to shoot better. Şengün hasn't looked fully like Şengün since he came back from his, I think it was an illness that he was out for a little bit, but like, I think he'll be able to recapture at least some of that kind of like burst that he had to start the season. I do think some of these things are going to come around a little bit. You're down a bunch of your best wings right now. Tari Eason's out. Dorian Finney-Smith is out. Aaron Holiday is out. I think that there's a certain amount of like positive regression that will happen here. But I do think a lot of the big picture issues that you're talking about are real, which is like they are super susceptible to these kinds of shooting slumps. They do seem to kind of hang their head when things don't go their way. There is a certain amount of like, we can get up underneath KD and force him to get rid of the basketball and load up on Şengün post-ups, and they don't really have another way to attack offensively. I think Reed Sheppard being a bad defensive player is downright devastating to them, because the perfect workaround for this would be to run a pick and roll through a primary ball handler and have Kevin Durant be the screener, to have Şengün be the screener. That way you can get those guys working with an advantage instead of constantly working against a double team. And I think there's just a lot of these things that are tilting against them. And if you want a stat that's crazy, Adam, they're 8-10 in their last 18 games. That's like
it feels that way too.
Substantial sample of them being below 500, but I don't think they're quite as bad as they look right now, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, except for I do worry that this is a sign of things to come. That some of the holes they have, do they have the, I don't want to say will, because it's more than that. Do they want to do the things that it's going to take to get them there? And you mentioned the screening with Reed Sheppard. First of all, his defense is tough. You have to get a lot of offense out of him, which he's capable of, but the team doesn't necessarily maximize that by virtue of their personality. They were using him as an inverted screener yesterday, and they could have gotten better looks than they got. At least if I'm a coach, I'm looking at it and saying, okay, there's something here. This is what we have to do when teams are trapping. We can use him the way the Thunder use Isaiah Joe, which is you kind of give this fake ghost screen, slip out, they put 2 on ball, you're open for the quick release. They had some success, but don't run it nearly enough if you ask me. The Thunder will run that, by the way, like 9 times in a row. Sometimes in the fourth quarter. They'll start a fourth quarter with Isaiah Joe and just ghost screen release, and it just works every single time until a team makes an adjustment. So the Thunder or the Rockets will have to get there, but this is my point. Right now, when I'm talking about toughness, they're physical. They do things that are gritty. They have guys that it's not that they are individually not tough players. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is they seem like a team that can crack. And when you look at some of the top teams that we call contenders, they might lose a playoff series, but I don't think they're going to crack. I don't think they're going to lose it by 20 points in the final 2 games because they just got broken and couldn't overcome it. The Rockets right now, if they lost a series right now, I'd be like, I'll bet they get blown out in the closeout game. That's the personality of the team right now, and that's a concern in my opinion. And if I'm a Rockets fan, that's what I'd be worried about is, am I sure this team is going to go down swinging because they have the connectedness and collective cohesion to overcome the problems? And I just don't see it at all.
To your point, just about every team that wins the championship, there's like 3 or 4 playoff games where they come back from double digits, because they just have this like unrelenting style of play that they never let go of, even when things aren't going their way. And like Denver, when they won the title, that happened. They had big comebacks. Remember that game 2 against the Lakers when they were down big and they worked their way back. Like comebacks are just kind of like a part of the story for the best teams because they never get discouraged or get down in those situations. But I'm with you. The one thing I'll say with Houston, this is the last thing I'll say about it, they still, to me, are so far from a finished product that like I'm very hesitant to put like a firm ceiling on them. But I said this on my show this morning, and I mean it. Like, I don't know how you could leave that game last night and not be discouraged. Like, a lot of things went your way. Again, we talked about it. Like, margins are huge swings in the modern NBA, and you dominated your margin and mitigated their margin and got blown out by 20. Like, I don't see how you could leave that game feeling pretty good about your chances in this matchup.
Houston just has to figure it out. I'll tell you this, they have a little bit of a lighter schedule here for the next week or two, but listen to their schedule at the end of the month. I think it's going to come down. Like, they have Minnesota tonight. That's a tough one. Second night of a back-to-back, and you got Minnesota. That will be a tough one, but, it could be a meaningful turning of the ship. But then they get to is it them at the end of the week, or is it the Thunder? Oh, maybe it was the Thunder at the end of the month. Yeah, I guess it's the Thunder at the end of the month.
Who do they play at the end of the month?
So they have it's like the NBA did this, I think, knowing who the top teams were, and they were trying to save everything for the back half of the year. But they get a run here at the end of the month that goes at Minnesota, at Denver, home against Orlando, at San Antonio, home against Houston. So you go Minnesota, Denver, San Antonio, Houston, 4 out of 5 games. That's it. That's the test. Yeah. Right now they're looking great.
If they run that table, they might get to 70.
Yeah, if they run that table, they're back on the menu. Back on the menu, man. Let's run through some of the other games here real quick, just real quick hitters and takeaways. Celtics get the win 119-114, and they did it by a huge comeback, 36-21 in the fourth quarter. The comeback actually began in the third quarter, but they got a big win here. I just love this Celtics team. I actually like the Heat too. Doing it against the Heat is impressive.
Yeah, I thought the story of the game was Anthony Simons. Not hard to figure out. He had 39 points, but specifically his drives. So yeah, no, hot take. Anthony Simons, player of the game. I thought it was his drives that really impressed me. Like he's been, able to get hot as a pull-up three-point shooter at various points this season when he gets into that little step back, and he certainly hit a bunch of those last night. But like that's been kind of hot and cold, and he's been an unbelievable catch and shoot player this season. Like you leave him open, it's going in every single time. But the thing that's been really disappointing with Anthony this year is he hasn't been able to penetrate the defense much as a driver. But that was a big part of his fourth quarter attack last night. He had 3 driving layups. This is a guy who averages this season 2.2 points per game at the rim. So basically 1 layup a game. And he had 3 layups just in the fourth quarter last night. So I thought that was kind of encouraging. And then I thought at the end of the game, they did a really nice job swarming Miami's drives. It's kind of what you have to do with Miami having non-shooters on the floor like Bam. Like you kind of just have to swarm the drives and live with Bam shooting threes. And yeah, there will be games like what happened against Phoenix where Bam goes bang, 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 hits 3 threes and he gets a win. But
live with that.
He was missing last night, and it just was one of those things where they were able to get enough defensive plays at the rim late in the game. And the last thing I'd say is just Boston's guards, I love how much they scrap on the offensive glass. Sam Hauser and Derek White both had huge offensive rebounds down the stretch that helped put the game away.
The other game we'll talk about real quick, Warriors beating the Knicks. They fell behind early, but then dominated the last 3 quarters. I don't think this game felt particularly competitive. I felt like the Warriors were always in control, and the Warriors did some Warriors things. I mean, Steph made some big-time shots. The ball popped. They went on runs. The best thing I'll say about the Warriors is they had a run in this game that felt like old Warriors. I know they're not that, but they had one of those ones where you're like, oh, yeah, when Steph hits 3 threes in 3 minutes, they open up a 10-point lead. They had one of those in this game.
Yeah, the 2 things that helped blew the game open in the third quarter was they finally got control of the offensive glass. They gave up 10 offensive rebounds in the first half. They were really struggling with Cat underneath the basket in particular. And then they gave up 0 offensive rebounds in the third quarter. So they controlled the defensive glass, and then Steph Curry put the game away with his 3-point shooting. The one other thing I'd say that's super encouraging in this game is after the Knicks jumped them to start, there was this Jimmy Butler-led unit that was awesome at the end of the first quarter that got them back in the game.
Right.
And
that was it.
One of the most encouraging things with the Warriors this entire season is last year they could not score with Steph off the floor. Like they were hopeless. And this last month, these Jimmy-led units with Steph off are scoring the shit out of the basketball. And they have been really, really good. +8 in some change per 100 possessions with Jimmy on and Steph off this season. I think it's one of the big reasons why, like, for a Warriors team, I had been leaning more towards like a Malik Monk type of you need a guard who can come in and run the offense when Steph's off the floor. Now I look at a guy like Michael Porter Jr. and I'm like, this might be perfect for this team because these Jimmy-led units are playing so well that a guy like Michael Porter Jr. that could come in and just be a ceiling raiser for your best lineups actually makes a lot of sense. By the way, Adam, the Warriors, they had that brutal schedule to start the season. That was a big part of why they were struggling. They're 10-4 in their last 14 games. They're quietly starting to put them together a little bit.
Well, they're 3-1 on this homestand, this 7-game homestand. They have 3 more games: Charlotte, Miami, Toronto. Those are all winnable games. The Toronto one will be on a back-to-back. But, if you go 6-1 on a 7-game homestand, that can be right in the middle point of the season. It could be a pivot point. And we just see it so often. They're a team that I wouldn't count it out. But at the same time, I'm not counting it either. Let's wait and see if it happens.
Let's see the trade. Let's see what the trade is. Yeah, and we'll make a call from there.
I do like Kuminga. First day he's trade eligible. The report comes out that he is demanding a trade. It's so funny. This is the dumbest story in the NBA right now, and I just love the idea that it's like breaking news. Kuminga demands a trade. We know he hasn't played for a while. We know he demands a trade. He didn't have to say it.
I firmly blame the front office for this. It's been so abundantly clear that Steve Kerr doesn't like this guy, and that he doesn't like Steve Kerr, and that he doesn't like playing with. It's been so clear for years where this has been going, and the only people that wouldn't admit it were the leadership positions in that Warriors franchise. It's unbelievable.
Do you have any quick takes on Pistons beating the Suns? No Devin Booker, and it was a close game, but Pistons grinded it out as they always do, 108-105.
Just how good they are as a physical, just ass-kicking athletic team, because Cade was kind of off in this game. As a team, they turned the ball over quite a bit, couldn't score down the stretch, but they literally just won by Jalen Duren and Asar Thompson dominating under the basket as offensive rebounders and as cutters and finishers, and then just swarming on the perimeter defensively. And I've long thought that in order to have sustained success through shifting circumstances, you have to have an identity as a team that goes deeper than what your superstar does. And one of the things with Detroit is they have this identity, which is they are big and strong at every position group, super athletic on the perimeter, and they can win games just by bullying you. And that's what they did last night. And I just really like this Pistons team. They were 3-1 without Jalen Duren. Cade missed 2 of those games. They just have a lot of ability to win in the regular season without their stars, which I think bodes well for them moving forward.
We'll have a video up shortly, by the way. I had a one-on-one conversation with Bryce Simon, who covers the Detroit Pistons. Really good conversation about both what makes them such a special team, what they lack, and what he thinks they should do at the trade deadline. You're going to want to catch that. Make sure you're subscribed. Last one real quickly. I love that I have you on whenever the Lakers lose. It makes me so happy. And last night, we got an all-timer. 135-117. The Hornets just blew out the Lakers. Tell me what happened here.
So, first of all, the Hornets are actually playing some decent basketball right now.
They are.
So are the Kings. There are a handful of these teams around the league that are just straight up playing good basketball right now. Yeah. I've had a lot of losses this year where I've wanted to pull my hair out as a Lakers fan.
This wasn't one of them?
The Kings and Hornets losses weren't one of them. And the reason why is right now, because Austin Reeves is out, because Jackson Hayes is out, and you've got these weird LeBron at center lineups, because you have a two-way contract playing at guard for most of these games, like whether it's Nick Smith Jr. or Kobe Buffkin, who just joined the team. You've got all these dudes who are just bad NBA players who are playing big rotation minutes for the Lakers. And one of the big reasons for that is Rob Pelinka and the job he's done with the roster. It's another conversation. But the main thing is, the reason why I'm less discouraged is, one, the team is playing hard and defending better than they had been. And two, LeBron and Luka look great. And I think that's the one thing where you could talk yourself into. Austin comes back, Jackson comes back, Rui starts to get back into a rhythm. They hit on a trade. At least they could be a feisty kind of second-tier team. I don't have any delusions of grandeur with the Lakers, but I'm more encouraged than you would think given the results of these last few games. And that was a weird game, Adam. I kid you not, the Hornets were spamming ISO threes in the third quarter. Literally dribbling the ball at the floor and taking a step back three over Luka or DeAndre Ayton, every single time.
LeBron. His LaMelo had one. It's the biggest step back I've ever seen. It was a 15-foot, three-step back for a three. Because he got almost to the rim. He got into the paint and then was like, hold on. How far away am I? Step all the way back.
Let me just run on back. Yeah, so to give you an idea, they average 3.5 made pull-up threes per game, and they shoot 32% on them this season. They are not a good pull-up three-point shooting team, but they made 7 of them last night. They just tipped the cap. The Hornets, Brandon Miller's playing great. LaMelo Ball's playing great. Con Knippel is awesome.
Yeah,
they
he's
just got
incredible.
they got a bunch of dudes who are playing good basketball right now.
Yeah, they really do.
Yeah.
They actually have an interesting team. I wish their season didn't start the way it did because they might be kind of interesting if it weren't for that. All right, let's take a break. On the other side, we're going to wrap up and have a little bit of fun and look at the best draft classes of the last 25 years. In fact, we'll snake draft them on the other side. Should be a great conversation. What kind of dreams did you have when you were a kid? What did you want to be when you grew up? Well, how about now? Are you thinking about starting your own business? Maybe there's something you want to sell, buy, sell, trade. If so, Shopify is the e-commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US. You got to find out about Shopify. Shopify even powers our network, the All City Merch Store. That's where we do all of our business out of. Shopify has got you covered with website creation, product descriptions, email and social media marketing, and so much more. They also have AI tools that are designed to help you maximize sales. So if you're ready to sell, you're ready for Shopify. If you're starting a new small business, you got to know about the tools that will help you do business, and Shopify is that. Turn your big business idea into with Shopify on your side. Sign up with your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/allcity. That's shopify.com/allcity. Also want to tell you guys about Underdog. Football playoffs are here, and Underdog is the best place to get in on all of the gridiron action. I got a big Broncos game coming up here. Bo Nix, make us proud. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick if your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like touchdowns, rushing yards, receptions, and more. Get them right, you could win up to 5,000 times your cash. I play it for basketball, and here's what I've got going on tonight. This is the one I built tonight. Joel Embiid, lower 26.5 points. He's going up against the Cavs tonight. Michael Porter Jr., higher 25.5 points, going up against the Bulls. I think he's going to score. Kevin Durant, lower 25.5 points against the Timberwolves. I think he's going to get locked up. You can put together your roster. What are you waiting for? Download the app today and use promo code ALLNBA to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code ALLNBA. Underdog. Make picks. Win money. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama, New England, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, or Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. There we are, back here, segment 2 of the All-NBA show. Guys, make sure you hit the like button and make sure you're subscribed. We got all kinds of content. You guys have helped us grow this show over the last, really through the course of this season, and we appreciate it so much. You're part of that growth. Now it allows us to do more and more content. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss anything. Like the video I had, 15-minute interview with Bryce Simon. You're going to really love it, especially if you're a Pistons fan. All right, JT, I thought we'd have a little bit of fun today. And we're going to look at the best draft classes of the last 25 years. And we'll even talk about this current one, maybe at the end of it through the lens of that, because it's a very interesting draft class. We might even talk. Have you watched, by the way, Darren Peterson and Debansa? Have you caught them at all?
A little bit. It's actually, so my wife is going to visit a friend in Charlotte this weekend. So I have on my docket catching up on some college hoops.
Yeah,
that's what my plan is for this weekend. I'm going to watch NFL playoffs and catch up on college hoops. So I've watched some highlights, though. Both players are very fascinating in their own way.
I'm so fascinated by both of those two guys. Boozer, we'll see. Wilson, we'll see. Those guys are intriguing. I think they'll be great. But Debansa and Darren Peterson, I watched. I'm just like, man, these guys look like, I can't believe they're, 18, 19 years old. They both look men amongst boys. Let's, all right. How should we do this? I always let you have the first pick. This is what I'll do. I think I want the second pick today because there's two drafts. In my opinion, as you went through this, if we were to tier this like S tier, A tier, whatever, I think there's two S tier drafts. And there's some that are pretty close to that. Like there actually is quite a few drafts. But in my opinion, there's two that are like easily the top two drafts of the last 25 years. Do you agree with that?
I think so. I think you could get a little bit. There's a third that I think you could kind of consider in the conversation that I think we'll get into. But I like this idea. So we're going to go snake draft, right? So I go first and then you get two. Is that how this goes?
Yeah, exactly. And then one last thing. I'll tell you my method here. I really weighed the top more than the depth. Both mattered to me, but I really looked at just what did you get? What kind of Hall of Fame players did you get in this one? I didn't factor in where they were picked at all. This is not a matter of it was a great draft, but the top 3 picks were all bad. They all came later. I don't care where they got picked.
Yeah.
I just quantify it together. But the depth part of this to me was like 40% of it. The top part of it was 60%. Slightly more top heavy in terms of my decision making.
That's fair. I think that's the right way to handle it too. I still think that the top guys are the guys that have the most impact on winning in basketball. I'm gonna go easy here for my number 1 pick. You got to go with 2003. I'm getting the greatest basketball player of all time in LeBron James.
Jokic was 2014. Sorry.
So I get Carmelo Anthony in there. I get Chris Bosh in there. I get Dwayne Wade in there. A couple of deep cuts too. David West, the legend.
Yeah. Yep.
You get Josh Howard, one of the better wing forwards of that generation. Mo Williams, the number 2 for LeBron in Cleveland. Kyle Korver is in that draft as well. A bunch of just kind of interesting deep
You missed the
players.
best one. I can't believe it. You could have really won me over here if you would have just mentioned Boris Diaw. Boris Diaw, how could you not take him?
You're absolutely right. I should have included Boris. Boris was so good. Even late into his career. One of my favorite Boris seasons was that 2014 Spurs season. He was so good for them that year.
My hot take is that I think he should have been finals MVP. If you go back and watch the game, every time he checked in, they went on like a 20-0 run.
I know.
He was unbelievable. All right, so I think that's the right answer, honestly. You can get cute with what I think is number 2, but I do think when you stack them up, first of all, LeBron James still going, which is insane. Dwayne Wade, absolute all-timer. Carmelo Anthony, all-timer. To me, that's your top tier, but it's 3 guys that are just instant first ballot Hall of Fame top tier guys, and that's tough to do. And then the
Chris
depth
Bosh too, like if it wasn't for that blood clot, I think there might have been another phase in his career. Like I thought Bosh was a pretty good player that became underrated as the years went by.
Underrated for sure. But when I think about this, because I made 2 lines on my doc as I was preparing for this, and the top line was, can they be the best player on a perennial championship contender? And I think with Carmelo, Dwayne Wade, and LeBron, the answer is yes. A little bit harder with Carmelo given the skill set than those other 2 guys, but I still think it's like, yes, it's
it was
not
doable.
Crazy. Very doable. Mm-hmm. When you get to Bosh, if he's your best player, you're going to have to basically be like a 2004 Pistons type balance where you have 5 guys that are all there. I go number 2 pick, though, I think is the obvious one, which is 2009. And you get out of this one Steph Curry and James Harden, 2 of the best scoring guards of all time, just 2 of the best guards of all time, incredible careers. And then Blake Griffin, who is right there as well. I mean, his career was unbelievable. I would also consider him as could be the best player on a championship team. I kind of put him in the Carmelo box just in terms of like, yeah, it might be a little bit harder, but that guy is such a force that you do it. But then the depth on this one is pretty good too, because you get Drew Holiday, Ty Lawson, DeMar DeRozan, Danny Green, Jeff Teague, Rubio, Mills, and there's a bunch of guys like that in that draft class where they're just like really good starters on really good teams. And so I think this one has the depth. And then when you just start with Steph and James Harden, it's like, yep, that's pretty damn good.
Yeah, I think Steph Curry is the 5th best perimeter player of all time. I even have him ahead of Larry Bird for me. So like, I think when you're getting that level of, GOAT competition from one of your players, then you have one of the greatest offensive engines in all time in James Harden. Blake Griffin in the mid 2010s was literally like a perennial top 10 guy in the league. The other thing too, like talk about a guy who's still hooping. DeMar DeRozan is hooping right now. Like he is a big part of how Sacramento is chewing everybody up and spinning them out right now. He's basically just ISOing in the middle of the floor and either scoring every time or generating a wide open shot every single time. He's been hitting an absurd percentage of his like mid-range pull-ups as of late. He's another one of those guys that like sneaky has like a good longevity case as a player that just continued to produce at a certain level throughout his career. Drew Holiday, major championship level contender literally just 2 years ago, and a guy that might still get pursued by somebody at some point in the next year or two. Like I'm 100% with you on that. I think that's the clear number 2. I have a thought on number 3 though. I'm curious to see where you go. Because
I think there's 2 that this is where like, so I said those 2 are in the tier themselves. Now you go down here and you start to split hairs a little bit more. There's 2 that I think are in the running for it. So I think you're in good position to pick 4th. I'm going to go with 2018. And mainly because the top, I just like a little bit better than the top on the other side. And that is of course, a draft that features Luka Dončić and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander as your top 2 players coming out of that draft, which are obviously first ballot Hall of Fame caliber players, MVP candidate type players. But after that, you get Jalen Brunson, who's also in that tier of cornerstone of a championship team. You get Trae Young, who I know has fallen off and just got traded for a bag of peanuts. But he's had a great career. Jaren Jackson Jr., Mikal and Miles Bridges, Michael Porter Jr., DeAndre Ayton, who I know is a little disappointing, but when we're down this far on the list, it's still a good player. And then you get a bunch of good role players like Grayson Allen, Dante DiVincenzo, Bruce Brown, Kevin Huerter. There's just a lot of guys that are starters on good teams. But the top of this, Luka and Shai, yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah, and just Luka, Shai, and Jalen Brunson, the 3 of those together make it an obvious pick. I'm 100% with you on this. I think, too, we're talking about a group that already has that case, and these guys are going to continue to stack up accolades. Shai's probably going to get another MVP at some point in time, probably another finals MVP at some point in time. I like to think Luka might at some point. We'll see.
We're in a weird place with Luka right now. This is the weirdest. I mean, if we were having this conversation 1 year ago, this would have been ridiculous to say, but now we're in this. We're in a weird spot.
I'm right there with you. And then Jalen Brunson, I mean, up until recently, he was playing at the level of a top-tier superstar in this league. He had been hooping. I'm 100% with you with that as the 3rd pick. My 2nd pick, so this would be our 4th pick, I'm going 2011. And you have 2 blue chippers.
This was the other one.
Yep. Kawhi Leonard and Jimmy Butler.
Yep.
Both of those 2, Kawhi Leonard, obviously multiple finals MVPs. Jimmy Butler has been the best player on a finals team twice and has multiple examples of him going toe-to-toe with superstars in this league. And then an example like that series against Milwaukee where he went toe-to-toe with one of the MVPs in the league and straight up outplayed him and beat him in a playoff series. Jimmy just has a lot of playoff trophies on the shelf, so to speak. And then there's a lot of deep cuts in there.
Hold on a second. Hold on. That's not a deep cut. Kyrie Irving is not a deep cut. This is wild. Because I would have said there's 3 guys at the top, but you said 2, and then you got to the other tier. And I look at Kyrie.
I should have added the cutoff after Kyrie.
There you go. Okay.
But,
all right.
So we have Kyrie, arguably the biggest shot in the history of the NBA in the 2016 step back 3 over Steph Curry. I've got Kemba Walker. I've got Isaiah Thomas as the final pick in the draft that year. And he was up until his hip injury, he was kind of like a dude who was torching everybody.
Second or third in MVP voting. I mean, that guy it was short career, but a short peak, but the peak was really high.
Klay Thompson's in that draft.
He would have been the next name, by the way.
One of those guys who's been around forever and is still playing really good basketball. There's some depth in that draft as well.
Big Val, Vucevic, Tobias Harris. You get some guys, but to me, yes, Kawhi, Jimmy, Kyrie, next line, Klay Thompson. It's to me, I'm like, that's a really, really good draft, and it had the depth. So I think it's a good one. You get another pick. Now it gets hard though, because now you get to the point where there's one first ballot Hall of Famer, one really good player, and then it's depth becomes more important as we get down here.
So can I ask an important follow-up here?
Sure.
Are we projecting forward? Because there's a draft in here.
Yeah, it's tough.
There's a draft in here that I think is going to go down as one of the greatest drafts in the history of the league that I want to consider.
Oh, man. I wonder which year. Yes, though, the answer is we do have to kind of project. And I will say, as I was doing this, I noticed one thing with me. The top-level part's not hard to project. We can talk about Anthony Edwards and project that he's going to be in the Kawhi conversation or this or that. It's not crazy to think. It's when you start to project role players, because as I was just going through, and we talked about Kemba Walker, it's a big-time name. There's guys right now that might feel bigger than they'll be remembered. And that's where I think it's hard to do the more recent one. Is not the top guys, the 4th, 5th, 6th best guys.
Okay, I'm going to hold off a little bit longer on that one. You're talking me off the ledge here a little bit, but I'm excited to get into this draft when we get there, because I already know which draft. Yeah. I think this draft is ridiculously stacked. Man, this gets so tough now.
It really does.
I'll go.
I think there's one that I would take though.
I think I'm going to go with 2014.
Ooh. You're doing this just to piss me off.
From you. I'm mainly just playing spoiler here. But I'm getting Jokic and Embiid.
Yeah, it's kind of that.
It just, you can cut it off right there. Like Zach LaVine, he's still playing. He's actually playing pretty well for the Kings right now. Julius Randle has developed into a winning player there in Minnesota. I still like Andrew Wiggins as a really good perimeter defender. That's a great rebounder. I wish he was on my team. But it just having Jokic and Embiid, I think, gives you a really strong what do you have, 4 MVPs there between the two?
Yeah, that's right. You do. You also get Clint Capella. You mentioned Julius Randle. Aaron Gordon's in that draft, who I think is obviously a really good player. So you do have some depth on like good players, not great, but Jokic and Embiid, man. Embiid is also in the Luka spot a little bit right now where he's now underrated, because he can't do the things that he used to do. But his peak, that he's sustained for several years was really, really high. And it's funny that 3 years ago we were talking about him as like, is he a top, 8 big man of all time and dominant and who did this or that? And now it's like he's been diminished because he's fallen off from that level. But Jokic
he's almost
and Embiid,
become a sad story.
Yeah. Jokic and Embiid are two of the best bigs of all time. That's like just full stop. The other one that I would have taken if I was in your spot is 2008. And it's almost like the point guard version of this. You just did the center version. I did the point guard, which is Westbrook and Rose.
Okay.
You get Westbrook and Rose in that draft. So your the top of the draft is phenomenal. But you do have some nice depth in it as well because you get Kevin Love, Lopez, DeAndre Jordan, Danilo Gallinari. These guys were good players. But to me, it's Westbrook and Rose. You're talking about multiple MVPs as well. Same thing. You get multiple MVPs. And then just
they did not make my top 12 drafts.
No way.
Does that make me just a hater?
I think you're just a Westbrook hater probably. You ran Westbrook out of LA personally.
Yeah, exactly.
But Westbrook and Rose, man. Westbrook and Rose, I think that's a very memorable one.
Okay.
I got another draft here.
Yeah, you got one more.
Man, we're getting so tough here. I kind of want to steal the one that I think you're thinking of, but I'm not going to do it because I actually
you can do it if you want because we can still talk about it. I stole yours.
You'll get to take it later. I'm going to go 2017. You get Tatum, Donovan Mitchell, Bam Adebayo, De'Aaron Fox, Larry Markkinen, OG Anunoby, Derek White, Jared Allen. It's not as top heavy, depending on how you feel about Tatum and Mitchell. Like those guys are just a cut below what we're talking about when we're talking about these super great all timers. But nonetheless, there's a lot of guys that are really, really good and cornerstone type pieces. So I think 2017 would be there.
The Dylan Brooks disrespect. Why is he not included?
I should. Well, he's a late bloomer. He's blooming into this now.
Okay. My next two, I'm going to go one more standard pick before I get into my projecting pick, and that's going to be 2020. I'm getting Anthony Edwards.
Yeah.
I'm getting Tyrese Halliburton, who, talk about, I know it's deeper than just Tyrese being out with their center rotation and some of the injuries they've dealt with, but that team completely imploded with him being out. And then Tyrese Maxey, who I think has really developed into one of the better young guards in the league. You get LaMelo Ball in there, although I'm not the biggest LaMelo Ball fan. Like on the play where he hits the crazy step back, he like literally runs down the floor grabbing his crotch, and I'm just like, this is such a bizarre experience for me as a fan watching this basketball player. Definitely not my favorite, but you can't deny the talent. The talent is absurd with LaMelo. But yeah, I'm gonna go with 2020. Did you have any thoughts on that one before I give my next one? I thought this was the one you were going to say that it's a little early on. I guess it's not that early. We kind of know how these guys are, but Maxey and Tyrese Halliburton, to me, they probably should have taken that one actually a little bit higher. That's a good one. So the one that I have that I just think is going to be a ridiculous draft as time goes on is 2023. Okay. So you have Wemby, who, if he can stay healthy, is going to be in the GOAT conversation. You have Brandon Miller, who is really starting to turn into a good young player. Both of the Thompson twins, who I think both of them are going to develop into fantastic players as time goes by. Anthony Black, who I really like, who had another great game last night, had the quadruple poster in yesterday's game. That was crazy. That was so nice. Cason Wallace, Keontae George, who's been hooping. Keontae's been hooping. For the last couple of months. Like you're right. He could actually become a guy. It's so early that you're right. We might just be talking about him as like a Hall of Fame caliber player. He's really scoring the ball at the moment. And it's so early, we don't know. You have your guy, Jalen Pickett, in there. There it is. You got me. Jalen Hood-Schifino. I'm just kidding. I'm only kidding. Come on. But also Jordan Walsh, a lot of like big wings in that group, like Tamani Kamara is in that group. Jordan Walsh is in that group. Jaime Jaquez is in that group. Mohamed Gay, who's turned into a very good rotation player for Atlanta. But I just think because Wemby is like a sure thing superstar, I'd argue between Brandon Miller, the Thompson twins, Anthony Black, and Keontae George, you're probably getting two of those dudes to pop to like a perennial all-star type of level. Like, I mean, Amen Thompson's been averaging 25 plus for a couple of weeks now. Like, he's really starting to put it together. I just think that particular draft is going to be completely stacked when we get a few years down the line.
I'm probably a little more bearish on the upside, like the Hall of Fame, upside of all the guys you just listed, but it is possible. And it is early enough that I like that you took the risk. Is that your last pick then? Or is this it?
I guess it has to be. There's a couple other good ones in there.
So my last pick, hold on. So I have one pick, I believe, to round it out. Is that right?
Yes, you have one pick.
Okay, I have one pick to round it out.
I know where you're going with this. Let's see.
Well, let me see. I actually don't know where I'm going. I have to study my board real quick. As I study the board,
I think there's a clear option. Let's see.
I like, 2016, does it have Devin Booker in it? I think it does, but it wasn't on my sheet here, so I'm just kind of like going through. Nope, he must have been different.
This pick counts.
Yeah, this pick does count. Man, this is tough. Let me go with. No, he was in 2015. All right, I'm gonna go. Oh God, this is tough. I'm struggling on this one. I'll go with 2001.
2001.
2000. Okay. Actually, no, I'm going to go 2016. I'm going to go 2016.
Okay.
Yeah. Jaylen Brown, Siakam, Brandon Ingram, Sabonis, Jamal Murray, Ben Simmons. I think it's tough. Honestly, here's the hard part about it. The candidates are 2007, where you get KD, Marc Gasol, Horford, Conley, Joakim Noah. 2015, Booker, Cat, Porzingis. And then 2001, I just mentioned, you get a bunch of like really good players. Pau Gasol, probably the best. 2016... Man, they're all kind of the same to me, to be honest with you. They're like one great player, a bunch of really good players, and a handful of role players. What was the one that you thought was obvious?
I was looking at 2021, and the reason why is you get Cade and you get Şengün, and you get Jalen Johnson. So I think those are three guys that are. I'm also getting Evan Mobley, Scotty Barnes. A lot of like
Trey Murphy's
like
good.
Really good. Yeah, Trey Murphy's in there. Jalen Suggs is in there. Josh Giddey's in there. There's just a lot of like really good players in that draft. And I think there's three upper level ones between Cade and Şengün and Jalen Johnson, where I think like 5 years from now, we'll be looking back at that as a really strong draft. But I think the 2016 one was a good pick too. I'm higher on Brandon Ingram than most people. Jaylen Brown's legitimately been like a first-team All-NBA caliber type of player this season.
Siakam's awesome.
Yeah, Siakam has been, a guy who's been the second best player on two teams that were one that won the championship and one that was like potentially an Achilles away from winning the championship. So I think that's a good pick too.
Zubac, while not a star, is one of the best big men in the league and has been for a while. So that that kind of counts. Although this year I know it's been weird for him.
Malcolm Brogdon's in that draft.
Malcolm Brogdon. So you got some players. Well, that does it. Let us know in the comments what your top drafts are, or which one you think was underrated, left off the list. Maybe that's more interesting. I do think that almost everybody would pick 2003 and 2009 as the two best. So I'd be surprised if anybody went outside of that. So maybe let us know what you think is the most underrated draft and why. I think that would be an interesting one. JT, another great show, man. Another great Friday. What are you off to this weekend?
Dude. We are officially out of Thursday night football now, so you and I should be starting to get some great games on Thursday nights from now on. I'm very excited about that. And I do genuinely think this is going to be a very interesting deadline. It should be a fun rest of the season. I'm super excited to break it down with you.
I actually agree with you. I think that's going to really paint the next couple of weeks in the NBA as all of the different trade possibilities that'll start to pick up. If you've watched Milwaukee lately, man, that team looks like, I know the Giannis thing feels like it's far away.
They've quit on Doc, man.
They have quit. I think I said this last week, or I said it maybe Monday. I was like, man, they played Denver on Sunday, and I was like, did that team quit? Absolutely, they have. Everybody, thanks so much for hanging out with us today. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed. I'm back, like I said, Bryce Simon, deep dive on the Pistons, and then I'm with Tim Cato over the weekend. Mark Stein, we know he's in Europe. He'll be back next week, so I got Tim Cato over the weekend. We'll see everybody then.
We all silly like the mayor.